The 2018 Emmy Awards hit an all-time ratings low, but there were some high moments. I'm Elizabeth Wagmeister, here with Variety's TV critic, Caroline Framke. Now, I was at the Emmys, I was on the carpet and backstage, but Caroline, you are the expert when it comes to critiquing shows, and there was a lot of chatter about the hosts, Colin Jost and Michael Che. How do you think they did?
I was mostly confused by what they decided to do with the show. It was produced by Lorne Michaels. There were a lot of Saturday Night Live alums who were involved in the show, and it opened without the host there. It opened with Kristen Bell, Sterling K. Brown, Kate McKinnon, Titus Burgess, RuPaul, Ricky Martin, an amazing group of people who did this musical number, but it didn't have anything to do with the people who were supposed to be hosting the show. And then when they came out, they did sort of an airless monologue that just felt very much like a Weekend Update routine. And I think that can work on SNL. It obviously has for many years, but there is an adjustment that needs to be made for a live award show that I'm just not sure they really considered.
The two co-hosts, they were on the cover of Variety the week before the Emmys, and there was some discussion in that cover story by our colleague Brian Steinberg about not making the show too political, which they didn't. But they did talk a lot about diversity and how this was the year with the most diverse nominees. The actors of color was up 20% from the year before, but then what happened when the winners were announced?
I know it started to get really uncomfortable because that opening song was about diversity, and it was sort of a mocking self-congratulatory thing called "We Solved It," which is funny, because obviously we haven't solved it just because more diverse people got nominated this year. Out of the 26 categories announced the night of the Emmys, only 4 people of color were awarded Emmys. So overall, they didn't solve much at all. So that felt a little confusing and wasn't a great look for the Emmys overall when they really wanted it to be a good look for them that night.
Right. Now let's talk about some of those winners. A lot of people in the industry were very happy to see Marvelous Mrs. Maisel sweep, which was expected, but still a big sweep. But what were some of the other exciting welcome surprises?
I was really surprised and excited about Barry. I was really happy for Henry Winkler, who's never won an Emmy somehow in decades of being.
It's crazy.
It's incredible.
How does the Fonz not have an Emmy?
Right, and so when he said that he started writing his Emmy speech 43 years ago, I believed it, because that's when he was first nominated. And then Bill Hader seemed genuinely surprised to have won because he was up against people like Ted Danson, and he was very surprised, but I was really happy for him because he's great in Barry. I was really happy for The Americans winning Best Writing for Drama Series because the series finale is great. And on that note too, Matthew Rhys won for lead actor in a drama series, which maybe wasn't completely expected, but it was a little bit of a weaker year for that category, and his work has been phenomenal, so that was really exciting.
Now, Kerry Russell did not win.
She did not win.
And a lot of people were upset about that.
I'm so upset.
I could tell, and I know you're also upset that The Americans didn't win for Best Drama.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm in the tank for The Americans, that's pretty clear at this point, but I think it had such a strong final season. It really went out on exactly the right note, which is so hard to do, just for any show in general, to end it well. They really did, and so it was a shame that it didn't win Best Drama. It was a long shot. I never thought it was actually going to happen, but it was a weird category because it was all repeats. So it kind of could have gone any way. The fact that it went to Game of Thrones, I didn't call that, but I'm not totally surprised because it was a big, splashy season.
Right, and that Game of Thrones win, obviously, was one of many awards that HBO got, and Netflix and HBO actually tied for the most wins of the night.
I love it.
What does that say about where the television industry is at?
Well, it was a really highly anticipated showdown between the two of them going into the night because Netflix had racked up the most nominations ever, which was a big deal because that was always HBO's thing. Right. But they ended up tying at 23 wins each, and the Game of Thrones one is the one that did it. I started laughing because I thought it was really funny, just because
that's the one that put them over.
That's the one that put them over. That's the one that tied it. It's still a big deal that Netflix won as many as they did because obviously they have built up so much in such like a relatively small amount of time. But there's something to keep in mind here too, is that Netflix obviously plays the numbers game where they produce so many shows. If you throw that many darts at a board, you're gonna get more darts on a board, just how it works out. So in the industry, there's been this sort of debate between, a strategy like HBO's, which is sort of a boutique, like elite, smaller group of higher quality things versus something like Netflix, which ostensibly produces so much all the time.
With seemingly an endless amount of money.
Sure. We have some very smart colleagues who know exactly why that works. I don't pretend to be one of them. But there is also something to be said for what Netflix has done. Again, it hasn't been that much time. Even 5 years ago, this would have seemed undoable, but they did it, and they've made investments in people like Ryan Murphy, who won 2 awards last night.
Barack Obama.
Barack
You've heard of
Obama,
him.
sure. Shonda Rhimes, Kenya Barris. So they're obviously investing in good people, and it's going to be, I will be surprised if they don't end up winning the most next year.